All right, so in this lesson, we're looking at displaying and describing distributions of categorical data. So if you look, say categorical is when it's like a quality or a name. So down here on our example, you can see the type of ice cream, chocolate and vanilla, that's a categorical. So we display this using, a first way of displaying this type of data is a frequency table. And obviously we can add up how many times something occurs, and that's the frequency. And then we can change it into a percentage frequency. So when we start to see this percentage frequency, that's when we're going to say, all right, how many out of the total did we have, and we'll times it by 100, and that'll give us our frequency, so percentage frequency. So let's have a look at this example. We've got 11 preschool children. So when they tell you, often they'll tell you the total amount of people in their blurb. So we've got the total amount, and often in our formulas we refer to that as N, the total data. Okay, so we've got 11 kids picking either chocolate or vanilla. So we're going to fill in this frequency table using it. So often you can have another column which says the tally, but I'm just going to tally it up and then write the number. So if you look, I'll go, all right, I've got 1 chocolate, then I've got 2 vanillas, so I'll put 2 vanillas, another 2 chocolates, a vanilla, 3 chocolates, 1, 2, 3, and then 2 vanillas. So you can see we've got 6 chocolate and 5 vanilla. So if you add up those two, that's good. We get the total that they said, 11. And so now if we were going to write a percentage, this percentage is going to be, we had 6 out of the 11, and then we'll times it by 100. And I'm just going to round to a whole percentage, which would be 55%. So it could be 55, and then you could do the same for the one below, but I know that there's only 2 categories, so they have to add up to 100%. So that one would be 45. Okay, so here's some example questions on us reading a frequency table. So a sample of 96 birds. So here you've been told, as I said, once again, you've been told the N. So you know N is 96. And they were recorded whether they had a small, medium or large beak. Now, the percentage of birds in each group is calculated and the results are shown below. So you need to be really careful that this column is showing you the percentages of that. So when we look at the question, it's actually saying how many, not a percentage. So when we want how many of the 96 birds have a small beak, so if you look up here, it's 25% for small. So we're saying 25% of the 96 have a small beak. So when we're trying to find a percentage, we'll change that to a decimal. So that's 0.25, and of means times, and then we'll go 96. So we get 0.2596. So we've got 24 birds had a small beak. Okay, so then we're looking at this next one. It said a film was shown to audience at 2 separate cinemas, Warburn and Yarra Grove. So this is a variable. So when they collected data, they said, well, did you either go to Warburn or Yarra Grove? So if we were just looking at types of data, which we looked at in our first lesson, that would be categorical, because it's a name, and because it has no order to it, it's actually nominal. So just practicing categorizing that. Now, they went and saw a film, and then they ranked the film whether it was, so this is the other variable here, whether the film was good, fair or poor. So this is also categorical, but because it's got some order to it, like it's either good, fair or poor, we would say that's ordinal. Okay, so that's us just practicing that. So if we go and look at the question, it says Yarra Grove. Now, it wants the percentage. So what we want to do is start making sure that when we see they want a percentage, that we just write out the formula so we remember to get the right data. So at Yarra Grove, so they only want the Yarra Grove people that they're talking about. So we can see that's just this set of data. It said, of those people, the audience, the percentage who think the film is poor. So if you look there, poor is actually missing. We don't know what that is, but we know they add up to 250. So if first of all, I'm going to find out what, how many thought the film was poor. So I'm going to do 250 minus the other two, and that ends up being 60. So I now know that this is 60. Now, because they want the percentage down here, so I'm saying 60 out of the 250 at Yarra Grove, and then I'll times it by 100, and I'll get what the answer is equal to. So it ends up being 24%. So there's D is our answer. Okay, with this one is using the data from the question before. So I'm actually going to go grab that. Okay, so with this, when they ask, we're not going to go too much into it, we'll look at it later on, but they ask us if the data, so which of the following statements by itself supports the contention that the ranking given is associated with the cinema it's held at. So what they're asking you to say, does this data prove that it depends what cinema you're at would show how you rank the film? So when we are looking at things like that, we have to, when you want to compare or say if there's it supports, you want to always compare one category. So you'd hope when their statements, they're either talking about the good at both of them, or they're talking about the fair at both of them, and so on. So if you go down and we look at these ones, now it says 65 people at Yarra Grove ranked the film fair compared to 39. Now, why this is not, it is comparing the same, they're both comparing fair, which is good, but they're comparing the actual numbers. Now, we didn't have the same amount going to both cinemas. So we shouldn't really compare that. We should compare their percentages. So if you changed this, say, because they're talking about fair, if you changed like the fair, you'd change it to a percentage, these numbers to percentages. So if we look at this second one, this second answer, it says 64% of the audience ranked the film good at Warburn, while 64 and 50% at Yarra Grove. So they're both comparing good, which is good, and they've actually changed it to a percentage, which is a better way to compare it because they had different numbers. And if you do 96 divided by 150, you'll see that equals 64. And if you do 125 divided by 250, you see that's 50%. So this is this statement, and that's why this one is better. If you look at the other ones, they're not good because they don't compare to the two. This one doesn't compare the two. So this one, because this one's not good because they're both 26%. So that doesn't support that choosing which cinema affects the film, and that's what they want to show. So that's why this one's not good, and this doesn't prove that the film made a difference. Okay, so a way we can display our frequency tables is by using a bar chart. So a bar chart is shown it will have the frequency along the vertical axis, so along the y-axis, and the variable will be displayed at the bottom. So in this, we were looking at climate type, and then it was a number of countries that had that type of climate. So we've got the categories cold, mild, and hot along the horizontal or the x-axis. The height of the column will give away the frequency. So in this is just a frequency bar chart. So the difference between a bar chart and probably a histogram is a bar chart has gaps in between the bars. So if we have a look at this one, we said cold has a frequency of 3. So you'd have a little bar like that, that goes up to 3. Then if you look at mild, it goes up to 14. So you'd have your bar going up to 14. And then the last one, hot, is 6. So we'd have up to 6. So a bar chart, you'll see it has these gaps in between they call them bars, but they look like columns. And there's that. Now we can also have a frequency, a percentage frequency. So if we had a percentage frequency graph, you'll just see that it'll say percentage frequency along here, and you'll still have the cold, mild, and hot. And all it will do, the difference will be that, say, the bar would still be the same height, but that would indicate, as it says there, 13%. And then you would go up to, if it was up like this, so that's going to indicate that up here is, say, 60%, roughly up there. And then you've got the hot, so we'd say like that, and that would indicate over here 26%. All right. So we can also have a segmented bar chart. So what you have, just simply have one bar, and that's broken up. So what you have to be aware of, so you can see this section here is indicating the cold climate, and because it goes from 0 up to I think what it was 3, you know that this one has a frequency of 3. Now because this one goes from say 3 up to 17, we can see that, because just say that 17, we can see that this category has a frequency of 14, and then this one goes from 17 up to 23, so we can see there's 6 units in there. So you can either do that, and then also you could have the same where you had a percentage frequency, so where this would say be, if I'll just do it, 0%, and then up to this point would be 13%. Now because this bit in here actually was, say, 61%, but up here on the category, on the scale, it's going to be like 64% here, because you, even though the section's 61, but you've got to add it on to the 3, and so that's how that works. Okay, if you look here, you'll hear when we look at these bar charts, obviously it stands out what the mode or the modal category is, which is the most frequent or the most popular. So here you can see that mild is the modal category because it's the most common or most frequent. Okay, so when you have to describe, you look at the frequency and describe what the data is showing you, or even if you're looking at a bar chart or a segmented bar chart, what you need to do, you need to briefly summarize. So you would say, in summary, like what's the lowest, the highest, and then we also would talk about the most common or the modal. So before it was mild, and then you would always include data or statistics. So you might say the frequency or the percentages. So if we were looking here, so we said here was 23 countries and they were categorized in cold, mild, and hot. So here's an example of a report if you had to write something. So we said the climate types are 23. You don't have to worry too much, I would say, about this comment here. It's more than, you don't have to write that out. It's more this next bit here that we want. So you'd say the majority of the countries, 69%, were found to have a mild climate. You could say that the modal category was mild with 69%. That'll be fine. And of the remaining countries, 26% were found to have a hot and 13% were to have cold. So you're describing the categories. So there's an example of a report which you could use if you're asked to do that. Okay, so here's some exam style questions. And it's got here, the development index is used to measure the standard of living in a country. The bar chart below shows the development index of 150 countries. So you can see here, once again, they gave you the total. So you know there's 153 people surveyed. And you got told whether it was low, medium or high. So how many of these countries have a high, very high development index? So very high, so we want very high, and it's saying how many. So you check that your frequency is just a frequency, which it is. So then I would just read off here, and it looks like it's 31 if you go across. So I'm going to say 31 countries. Okay, so the graph below shows the percentage of 3 different types of pasta in 4 different stores. And one of the categories got deleted off. So if we just, this one here, we're going to go, the grey one is cannoli. I think it got wiped off. So that's cannoli. Cannelloni. All right, so let's go through these questions. So first of all, down here, I'm going to do question 6. It says the variable sales and shops are. So they've counted the sales, so that would be numerical. And the shops are just labels, like your categories. So you're either at that thing. So that's what we're looking at. So when they say, which one of these, and when it says numerical and categorical respectively means just whatever they listed first, they're saying in their answer. So because we said sales was mentioned first, so numerical will be mentioned first and shops was mentioned second, that's there. So this is actually the answer. And if you look through the others, you can see why they're not right. I'll let you do that. So with question 7, it says, what percentage what was the percentage of sale of macaroni in shop 3? So you only want shop 3, okay, and they want a percentage. So we're looking at shop 3. Now this is a percentage frequency bar chart. So I don't have to convert anything. They're actually measuring in frequency. In percentage, sorry. So if you want macaroni, we're looking for that blue colour. So if you go across here, it's this section that we want. And you can see that it starts at 30 and it finishes at 70. So there's actually 40% in between those two in the categories. So the answer is 40%. Okay, so if we look at question 8, which one of the following statements is true? So it says shop 1 sold more spaghetti than cannoli. So if you go look at shop 1, so we're looking at shop 1, and spaghetti is the red and cannoli is the grey. So you can see the grey, that's not true. The red isn't more than grey. So you can go through that and you see that that one's false. So you're looking for which one's true. It said shop 3 had the least percentage sale of cannoli, so it means shop 3 would have the smallest grey section, which it doesn't, so that's false. Shop 1 and 2 have the same percentage of spaghetti, so we'd see the same red amount, and that's false. The percentage of macaroni sold at shop 4 was less than double the percentage of macaroni at shop 2. So let's have a look at macaroni shop 4. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and shop 2 has 1, 2. So they're saying shop 4 had less than double. That's not true. shop 4's got 3 times the amount. So that's still false. And hopefully this is a true statement. And it says shop 1 sold more macaroni than spaghetti and cannelloni combined. So if we look at shop 1, spaghetti, it sold 1, 2, 3, 4. It sold 4 spaghettis, and it sold, let's just count this. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 macaroni, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you look at the shop sold more macaroni, which was 11, than the spaghetti and the cannelloni combined, which is 9. That is true. So there's our answer. Okay. The segmented bar chart shows the age distribution of people in 3 countries, Australia, India, and Japan, for the year 2010. So when you're looking, always look, I reckon always highlight that this is a percentage frequency, so there are percentages in there. So when it says write down the percentage of people in Australia, so we only want the Australia, who are aged 0 to 14. So if we look up there, 0 to 14 is the black category. So we want this category in here, and write the percentage. So we can simply read it off, because this one's starting at 0 and it goes up to, I'm going to say like 19. So we'll say 19%. And then it says in 2000, so just always double check, it's still percentage. It said in 2010, the population of Japan was 128 million people. So that was an N here that they've given. And then they said how many people in Japan aged 65 years and over. So if you look at 65 years and over, that's the grey section, and we want Japan. So we want this. Now, this is giving us a percentage, and if we go and read off what type of percentage it is, so it starts at, I'm going to say 77. So if you go across from here, let's say it's 77%, and it goes up to 100. So that means within here is 23%. So we're going to say 23% of all the people in Japan, which was 128 million, were, what was it talking about? Were over 65. So we'll just change that. So we change the percentage to a decimal by like dividing it by 100. Then of becomes times, we've got 128 million. And we just do that on our calculator, and we end up with 2,944,000. Oh, sorry, 29 million. Sorry, it's 29,440,000 people. All right.